Thank you to the adults and parents who are here, as well as our confirmation kids, for our speaker tonight. I have called her, and I'm a little worried that the weather might be delaying her. I haven't gotten an answer yet, so I'm just going to be chatting a little bit here to give her a little bit of time, and then should we get to a certain amount and maybe it looks like she's not coming, we'll let you go home. But I do want to maybe just take a few minutes to talk about the importance of this issue and why we had her come. So this summer, when I was with a bunch of other pastors and lay people, we went to a special retreat called Be the Change Retreat. We talked about a lot of issues, but one of the things we did was invite Wendy to come and speak to us. And I didn't really know anything about her, and I didn't really know anything about her ministry. And so I was really impressed to hear her talk. In fact, she was only slated for an hour, but after about an hour and a half of her talking, we wanted her to keep going. Because not only does she have an amazing story to tell, an amazing ministry that she's doing, but she's a person of deep faith and integrity. And so we were very touched by what she had to say. So Wendy herself has only been doing this particular ministry for about a year and a half. And if she comes, she'll tell you herself, but what she had heard when she was doing some ministry and trying to end sex trafficking, which really is people who've been tricked into a life of prostitution. And it's a very abusive life. And these are mostly girls, but not all girls. And the targeting age is really 12 to 14 years old, which is one reason why we wanted 7th graders here. So as we were hearing these stories, she heard that in western North Dakota, with the whole oil boom and the man camps, that maybe there was some dubious things going on there. And so she was sent to go just check it out and give a report. And so she did. She drove out there and she walked around, and her jaw dropped. She'd never seen behavior like this before, in that she would walk down the street and see pimps handing out their business card in broad daylight. And she says everything she knew about that life that she came out of was that everything is done in secrets and shadow and darkness. And here it was so normal, it frightened her. And so the first thing that she did is she tried to find people who could take this on. And she happened to run into 3 pastors' wives in the area and started telling them, this is really bad, you need to do something. And they said, you're right, it is bad, but we don't know anything about it. Can you consult us? And the consulting turned into full-time ministry, and she moved in Bismarck and has stayed there ever since and formed For Her North Dakota. So really powerful ministry in which she does many things is that she tries to educate people, she educates law enforcement, and she also rescues some girls. And she's also gotten to the point where she's shown great compassion for all people who are involved in this. Because everybody who's involved in this life and what goes on and the money exchanging hands and everything, none of it is healthy, and all those people are wounded. And it was so easy for her to just sort of view everyone as victim and perpetrator, but she began to realize in her time together that everybody involved in this somehow was a victim. So as we had talked about a couple weeks ago, my poor 7th and 8th graders were inundated with the Pastor Siri Commandment 6. Yeah, talk. Brownies. And we talked about how honoring Commandment 6, thou shalt not commit adultery, was so much more than just even about marriage and being faithful in marriage. It has to do with sexuality and what is healthy and what is not healthy. And so we talked a lot about that. And that really was preparing the way in some ways for what Wendy would share and what is healthy and what is not healthy. So, do you remember the brownie story? Yeah. 7th and 8th graders are never going to eat brownies again in their entire life. But so, what else can I say? I'm just trying to stall just in case. I've got my phone on me. One of the things she talked about was how this industry, the sex industry, is a $69 billion industry, meaning there's a lot of people making money on this, and a lot of people who have something to lose if people start getting out of the game. And so when money becomes your main motivation, people no longer matter, and you'll do everything that you need to do to make sure that you have product and to make sure that you have people who are buying. So how do you get a product? If you guys understand what I'm talking about, you try to trick and lure people, because no little girl ever wakes up ever in her life and says, I want to be a prostitute. I want to be used and abused the rest of my life. Nobody. Often what happens is they find themselves tricked and put in a situation that is so traumatizing, they don't know what to do. And so they are lured and sucked into a dark hole in a life they cannot escape, and are made to feel very much like they cannot escape it, that they would not be accepted back with their family and their friends, with anybody. So that is the one piece. Oftentimes, Wendy said that when she speaks to police, she will tell them that if they ever pick up a girl who's being charged with prostitution, that the first thing they do before they question her is they need to give her something to eat and some water and a good place to sleep, because they've intentionally been kept sleep deprived, dehydrated, and hungry, so they're so fogged up and fuzzy that they couldn't possibly escape if they wanted to. On the other hand, we have the buyers. And that is a whole different mentality that is groomed in our society, and it's groomed in our culture. And a lot of people will spend billions of dollars training young men to think in a certain way so that they grow up to be buyers. And they think it's normal, and they think it's okay. And so one of the things that Wendy wants to do when she talks to churches is to say, we want churches to be a safe place in which not only we talk about this, even if it makes us uncomfortable, but also that we talk about what's healthy and what's not healthy. What does a good relationship look like, and what does a bad relationship look like? And if somebody needs help and they come to ask for help, that they're not shamed or put down or driven away, but rather supported and given grace and love. One of the other pieces Wendy does, because she was converted to Christianity, and that is a huge part of her ministry, is she really believes these girls believe they're worthless, that they've been told they're worthless, they've been shown they're worthless, and they have nobody to support them, and they do not believe you if you tell them that God loves them. And so she does a lot of work in trying to convince them that not only does God love them, but that they're worth something. And in that process, they're worth a different life. And so she really firmly believes that that is something we all need to be doing, is telling each other the strength of that message, that no matter what you've done and no matter what has been done to you, you are loved and you are worth it, and you don't deserve abuse, ever. And so that is a challenge that she asks for families, that she asks for churches, is that we try to remind kids of all ages that no matter what they're coming from, that when they step in these walls, this is a safe place where they can be loved and accepted and told that they're loved, and they can share whatever dark secrets they have, and it will be held and accepted and understood, and they will be given compassion, not judgment. And that's really hard. There are definitely places that she's been to in her time that have not been able to do that successfully, where she feels frustrated. She'll bring a bunch of girls who've gotten out of the life, and they're ready to go to church, and they come into church with maybe their short skirts and their crop tops, and the first thing that they're do is they're judged, and they're told, you better put more clothes on, you better stop wearing so much makeup. And they feel very, very judged. And so one of the things she tries to educate people in is, you just never know. You never know what people are going through. And the only person, I love this line, the only person who can clothe them is Jesus. When they find that self-worth within themselves, when it sparks from within them out of a self-love, they will automatically know how to better take care of themselves. But being told and judged from someone else just makes them feel ashamed and unwanted and unloved. A couple things that we can talk about as we are gathered here is simply the reality. And I'll say a couple things, and if it makes you feel uncomfortable, I give you permission to be uncomfortable. I'm totally okay with saying things that make you uncomfortable. That's my job. As we talk about this as family and as parents and at this age, talking first to the boys, we do live in a culture in which we still talk about boys will be boys, and we talk about how things that we see in the culture we sort of accept or sweep under the rug. We talk about, you'll hear things still in our culture about, the way a girl dresses and the way a girl behaves and the way a girl will present herself as being an excuse for bad behavior on the point of boys. And you'll hear me say it right here that that's absolutely no excuse. The only person you're responsible for is yourself. And you have the responsibility to honor the person that you're with. And so we state that. Also, that reality that out there on the web are a lot of things that are made to shock and entice. They've done a lot of psychological studies on how to lure us into something that can be a dark trap and a dark hole. But yet it's important to remember that even though what we see on the web may feel innocent, that the reality behind that is a lot of fear and a lot of shaming and a lot of trapping and a lot of abuse. And so it is not an innocent crime to go on the web and to look at pictures or images that may be very scandalous and exciting. And yet, when we react to them, that's normal, that's who we are, but yet we have a choice to make after that. And then for girls too, just that knowledge that there are a lot of forces and money at work that will try to lure and trick. And so looking for that and really being aware of sort of red flags of people online or in person who may be trying to trick you or lure you into trusting them, into doing something. We can all get hoodwinked now and then, but what's important to remember is that it's never too late to ask for help and never too late to talk to a trusted adult if you feel you're getting into a situation that is scary. Any questions? Talking about a lot of generalities. This is something that could probably be a very long, big conversation. The kids are like, no, please don't look at me. Don't. Well, this is something that I want our church to be committed to being open about. That we have hard conversations, that we have conversations we're uncomfortable with, and that as parents with kids, that we're willing to take that mature step to have conversations, that when we see something in a commercial, when we see something in a movie, when we hear about something on the news, we can sit down together, even if we're so uncomfortable we want to scream, and say, this is what I think about this, that this is not okay. What have you heard? What do you know about this? And let's have a conversation. That ongoing conversation and that ongoing assurance that that we all are very complicated beings, but there's nothing that we could do or say that is beyond God's forgiveness and love and grace. And so when we mess up and when we do something wrong, that's okay. We can always come back. All right. Thank you. Thank you.